of iatrogenic disease?
No, tell me, Denny Sue, what is iatrogenic disease?
Iatrogenic disease is caused from side effects of a medicine or being prescribed the wrong medicine or poor medical care. Did you know, Phil, that iatrogenic disease is the third biggest killer in this country?
Are you for real, Denny Sue?
I'm 100% for real, Phil. Our next speaker today is a very beautiful friend of mine. Her name's Catherine Lumsden. Kathy is a mother of two vax-injured children. She has two vax-injured children. And she's here today to share her story with us. So, welcome on stage, Kath.
Yeah, that'd be good. All right. This is my first time talking into a microphone, so bear with me. Denny and I volunteer together, and we've sort of got to know each other over the last year or so. And it's definitely not a story I talk about much because it's very difficult to open up about it, and I get quite upset. I'll probably start crying soon. But we were in a women's group the other night, and we were having quite a meaningful discussion, and I felt confident enough to share my story. So Denny's encouraged me for the sake of, I guess, the bigger community, and I look out and I see lots of familiar faces and lots of people with children, so I'm going to try and overcome some difficulties and just try and sort of talk about the journey that I've been through. I've got two beautiful kids. Is it a bit loud? Like that? I've got two beautiful kids. My daughter's actually over here. She's 16 and my son's 13. So I was pretty conservative. I didn't really understand what they were putting into my kids. I actually chose to fully vaccinate my children. And I guess you never really know until it happens to you, and then experience changes you, and then you just become quite a different person, and you have to learn from the whole debacle. So Jade's 3 years older than my son, and we had a lot of problems like skin eruptions and rashes and allergies and food allergies, and I don't think it really clicked, and so I sort of continued on my path of vaccination. It wasn't until my son, he was about 4, and we'd had a whooping cough epidemic at the school that we were at, and so he actually got whooping cough and was sick for about 6 months, was incredibly unwell. And then I decided to change schools, and he went to a government school, and of course they required him to be vaccinated, so I went back and had the DTPA booster at 4, and that was the beginning of hell, really. And within about an hour, Kai, his eyes were rolling back in his head, and you could see the whites of his eyes, and he collapsed on the floor, and he was having fits and seizures and foaming at the mouth, and oh look, it's every mother's nightmare really. And I thought I was going to lose him. I was just basically watching my son go through something that I'd never seen before, and was totally caused by the DTPA booster. So I just got him into an ambulance and took him to hospital, and then we got through the emergency, and then basically a week later or so I took him back to his GP, and then we were in Fremantle Hospital for about a year and a half, going through all the paediatric neurology and all the testing and the prodding and the poking and the labelling and everything. So it took about a year and a half, and then I finally got a diagnosis, and they said, well, he's got epilepsy and it's vaccine damaged or caused by vaccine damage, and don't give him any more needles. And here's a medical contraindication letter and exemption letter, and good luck. So I think I was probably in shock for about the first year and a half, and then I guess things just started to sink in that this is going to be a lifelong commitment with my child, and this journey was not going to be a very easy one, and it was going to be very difficult. No, he has not been diagnosed with autism. He's got he had speech delay, articulation delay, speaking problems, learning difficulties, mild brain damage. He's been diagnosed very recently with ADD, inattention as well, on top of everything else. He still has seizures when he's sick. It's been going on for years. He's 13 now. I think I've spent $50,000 on OTs, which is occupational therapy. The same with speech pathology, school psychologists, educational assessments, handwriting specialists. I've had the most amazing support through school. They're absolutely amazing. Department of Education are incredible. I had some assessments done last year, and Kai was given a fully loaded iPad full of interactive programs and supports, and he's at South Freo now, and the school there is absolutely amazing. They've got the most amazing support team for learning support. Big eye-opener to the world of vaccinations and then how it impacts on your child for the rest of their life. So it's hard work and it's really difficult, and I don't talk about it much because I feel very upset and I feel quite guilty. It's that real mother's guilt kicks in, and you just wish that you'd known more about what you were doing before it happened. And he's not here today because I didn't really want to talk about him in front of him because it's not cool. It's insensitive, and so I decided that he was going to stay home today. And it's something I never talk about, so I know it's a really difficult thing to talk about, but I just thought that today was probably the right day to talk about it. And yeah.
Well, thank you, Kath, because it's mothers like you that made me question vaccines and research more and more. So thank you, Kath. Thanks.
Just one thing, I think like I said, you never know until it happens to you. And it is a lifelong thing. It's not something that's just going to go away or get better, and you've just got to keep rolling with all the supports. And it's changed my life, and now we are vegetarian, my daughter's vegan, I see naturopaths, I do acupuncture, my son gets kinesiology. I've done everything alternative, but I can tell you it is the hardest thing to raise two beautiful, conscious children, but to then have all of these complex layers which you'll never stop having to support your child with for the rest of their life. It never stops, and it is such hard work. But I love him to bits, and I love my daughter to bits, and I just wish I knew before. That's all I can say. So thank you everyone for listening. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kath. Kath, just quickly, did you report Kai to the database of adverse event notifications through the TGA? Okay, because I only knew it as VAERS, and I've been researching this for quite a long time, but in Australia it's called the Database of Adverse Event Notifications. So if your child has had eczema, asthma, any kind of seizure after vaccines, please notify the TGA. because it's believed that 1 to 10% of adverse reactions are reported.